Good afternoon and welcome to Carnation Crafts TV. We're live in the Carnation Crafts TV studios, and today is the day that we launch, certainly on the YouTube channel, launch the Orchard Outing collection, which is super pretty and lovely. So a lot of you will know this went onto the web last week, and we are doing the launch today for it in the channel. And so it's just a really pretty collection. So a lot of you have seen a lot of the stuff that comes with this collection, and you've seen how it all comes together, but we want to give you some more demo time, and because we've got the studio space to do that, it's a really nice way to come in with it, going onto the web, going onto the shop, and being able to show you just some more demos that are a bit more sort of you and I kind of thing, if you like. Now, what we want to talk to you about is, first of all, we'll go through the boards in a second, but I do just want to talk to you about the competition. So for those of you who haven't seen the two programmes before this one, this is the third for today, and you can catch up on the other ones on YouTube. But as you know, the TV channel airs on YouTube, and Carnation Crafts released a competition last week, and basically all you've got to do is subscribe on the YouTube channel, and then you share the post, like the post, and comment on the post, tagging a crafting friend that you know. So fairly easy way of doing it all, and the scammer came in basically, and they've started private messaging people saying that they've won. So just to be clear for everybody, we will be announcing the winner, if you like, on the 25th of April, and it'll either be myself, Hannah, Dawn Wheeler, or Dave Bradford, who will actually announce it live on air. So you don't need to worry about anything else. But if you do have a message in your message box, it's not from us. We're not going to send you anything unsolicited. We never will. So it's not from us. Yes, Miss Taz?
Now, if they subscribed to our YouTube channel
Yeah.
before we announce the giveaway,
Yeah.
they will still get entered if they follow A, B and C with the competition as well. So if
Yeah.
they like the post, they can still enter if they've subscribed previously to the giveaway announcement.
Okay, so if you have previously subscribed and then you saw the giveaway and you were like, oh, well, that's not fair because I've already subscribed, you're still going to get drawn into that competition. But you do have to go onto the Carnation Crafts page, find the competition giveaway, and you need to share that, you need to like it, and you need to comment and tag a crafter on it. Once you've done all those four things together, that's you automatically entered into the draw. So there'll be a £500 giveaway. That's for the Create and Craft shop. That £500 giveaway, there's one for a UK viewer and there's one for a US or other part of the world viewer. So it's a really good competition. £500 on the Carnation Crafts website is a lot of money. There's so much to buy in there, because don't forget, yes, absolutely, they sell obviously all the beautiful collections and all of the perfect papers that go with that, but actually they're kind of a craft shop on their own as well. They've got loads in there. So you've got your ball tools, you've got your Elevate, you've got all your different papers. There's loads of stuff. Go hunting on there. They've got the multimedia mats on there. There's a ton of stuff in their shop, and I am sometimes lucky enough to go down the warehouse and have a little ferret around. There are so many things. So if you look at craft essentials, that sort of thing, you'll find so many things like nested dies. You've got your gold leaf there, which we use quite a lot when we're embellishing. Loads and loads of different stuff. So don't think it's just for dies. It's not. You've got £500 to spend in the shop. Lovely prize to have. Right, let's have a look at these boards for Orchard Outing. This collection's so pretty. It's so pretty. And we had so much fun. And unfortunately, I didn't get to actually play with this on air when it originally launched 2 weeks ago on Create and Craft, because I had a touch of the Rona, unfortunately. I did have the COVID. So it's super exciting to bring it to you today. This is the orange frame, and it's the circular frame. So there's a circle, there's a square, and there's a DL. The orange frame is for that circle. Isn't it pretty? I've taught you before earlier today, and I will say it again. Orange and white are two of the most lovely combinations. So yes, absolutely use your perfect papers, but when we're building up our layers, if you want to have a go, just white on white and then put the orange on top, it's so gorgeous. Just whack a sentiment in the middle, you've got a beautiful card. The little outside dies that you see here, the three here, they're your base card and your mats and layers, so you get to use them in that way. But obviously we can use this on an 8x8 as well. You're not just stuck by using it in one particular way. By the way, circle card, great for easels. Then you've got your lemon frame, and this is your square frame. Again, super useful, super pretty. All of these layers that you see in between here, these little stripes that you're seeing, they're different dies as well. So you don't have to have that centre panel here. You can change it out. There's loads of different ways of using it. Or you could, in theory, just make a very little dinky card, which would be super cute. But of course, if we're making presents for people and you're making a card, you can use that as a tag on a gift as well, so you can match it in with the card that you're making. And I think that's a really nice idea because it brings across that kind of continuity across your presents and your cards. And then the beautiful DL, isn't that special? I think that's really, really lovely. So in the last show, we showed some samples. I'll show them again, actually, in this show. But Taz picked out one that is this, basically, but it's using acetate behind it. And it is a really spectacular card. So again, all the different layers that you can use there. All of these separate. We said before, this is just a really gorgeous stained glass window. So many ways of using these. And then we've got Around the Orchard collection. So this comprises loads of stuff. It's a massive piece of metal. I will say, while I'm here as well, you are absolutely able to go onto the Carnation shop on their website, which is www.carnationcrafts.co.uk, and you can buy individual dies as well. You don't have to buy the bundle if you don't want to. So it's just a case of choosing, because some people would rather buy individuals. So if you put in Orchard Outing in the search box, as Taz is doing for us now, and you go searching for it, it'll bring you everything up that comprises this collection. And you can see all your elements there. So you can see Crafts Grove guest die set there. There's all of the individuals that you can go and buy, or you can buy the bundle. You can also get your perfect papers. While you're in there, please make sure that you get your free backing papers, your free inserts, anything that's free, grab it, it's free. So grab all of those as well. They go perfectly with the vignettes that you're getting, and vignettes are artwork. So all the pictures that you see here, those frames, they are the artwork. That's the vignettes that you're getting off the website. So just to keep you up to date with that. Now the first board that we're looking at here has got this really gorgeous shed on it, and this really lovely look. The little duckies going over the bridge, and you've got the little chicks here as well, so we can add loads of these. Really sweet, and you can put them in the little basket that we'll see in a minute. You can hide them behind the shed door you can cut so it will open and the little chicks can be behind it. They can put, you can put them in the little plant pots going down. We can cut away these edges if you don't want to use them, so you can get rid of those just by snipping in. There's so many ways of using Carnation craft dies, and I think that's where a lot of the strength is in them, because we go beyond snippability and we actually start to sculpt, do all kinds of things with them. They're aces. Right, so that is that one from Around the Orchard, and this is the second one from Around the Orchard. And you've got the 3 trees here, so we're going perspective. Now, I know obviously not the way it's looking there, but if you look at that and use your imagination just a touch, you can think of that as if you were standing here, this tree would appear to be the biggest, and you can go down in perspective. So consequently, we can start to use the trees in that way as well, or you can use them individually. Add all your elements in, and you can use a tiny tree if you're using a smaller card. You can use the larger tree if you're making a big card. You've got your ladder, you've got your fruits that'll go in your basket, your chicks that'll go in your basket, and you've got your large grass pieces. So that is the last of the Around the Orchard. That's just one die, those 2 boards. So it's massive. Look at this pretty girl. So this is the Grove guest. Just so heartbreakingly stunning, this bird. I think this is... I'm going to go out there, Taz, and say this is one of my favourites out of all of Carnation's things.
And do you know what you haven't done?
What haven't I done?
You've not named her.
Because I don't want to with this one. I haven't named her. I do name all of them, don't I? She'd have to have something really special. She wouldn't be a Gloria. Not that there's anything wrong with the name Gloria, but she'd have to have like a... I don't know. Email in. People, if you're watching, just type your comments on Facebook. What do you think she should be called? I'm not going to name this one because my names are pretty daft at the best of times, and she deserves a...
Can I throw my...
Go on.
Victoria.
No, because that's my middle name. And that just ruins it for me.
Tasman.
And the Victoria, my dad did just say, just chuck a Victoria in there to the person. So I don't, that doesn't seem, it needs to be something better than that.
Wendy has said Ruby.
Oh, Ruby's a lovely name because then it takes in this colour here. Wendy, I like Ruby a lot. That's a lot. Yeah, okay, Ruby. We're going to go with Ruby. I like that. Isn't she so pretty? I love that one. And then we've got the fruit corners. These are aces because we've done it today where you cut this off so it'll fit with the circle frame. So you can cut into them and cut around them. Keep the corner there. You can use them in the square frame and the DL frame so it fits all three. So they're perfect for all three card shapes that you get with this collection. Perfect as a card on its own just by cutting this out so you've got that background. Just to say again, I did say in the first show, you'll notice there's a little gap in this image on, just wait, can you see it where my fingers are? Just see that little gap on each side, and that's because it's called a split die. Split dies are very specific. It's so we can do over the edge cards. And I did say earlier today, and I do promise I will do you a tutorial about over the edge cards because we get so many questions from new starters with Carnation Crafts who says, why is my die broken? It's not broken, it's meant to be there so we can do over the edge cards. So I'll do a bit of a tutorial hopefully in the next couple of weeks on here, and we'll have a look at how those works. But this is really, really pretty. And you've got all your decoupage layers as well. We like to build. Then we have got What a Team, which is the lovely lady and the very, very tired little pup. And he is having a lovely little rest on the lady's back. Brilliant again for perspective. So if you're using that tree and then you bring in the shed and then you've got her sitting in front of that shed, really, really perfect for those. But also you can have the little bridge with the little ducklings in front as well. So all your perspective pieces are used there to create your stories and to create those beautiful cards. And finally, in this collection for the main dies, you've got this beautiful lace band here, which I think is so pretty. These are the ones that I always say never underestimate how often you're going to use them or how many ways you can use them. So with this one, if you take this, so it's obviously a pattern that goes down. So you can see the two little eyelet pieces at the top there. I can cut and match, so I can use just that much. So it can be that short, it can be that short, you know, and you can take it in increments. And then you've got this here. I've got to tell you, this would just make beautiful bookmarks. You know, if you put the die on top of the mat and then punched it with a little hole punch, put some ribbon through, really beautiful bookmarks. So when we're making cards, you can think of adding those in. Certainly when it comes to Christmas time, stuff like that, you can add those in as little presents in your cards. It basically costs nothing, but it's a nice little gift to have. And then you've got your apple leaves here, and you've got the beautiful skeleton pieces for it. And I'll show you those as we go through the demos today, so you can see them in full flow. Finally, you've got your stamps. We looked at the stamps in the last show, and these are all your sentiments, but they're the sentiments we use a lot. So things like happy birthday, thank you, get well. And then when you've got your, for someone special, lots of love. You are wonderful, Miss Taz. That's actually just one of the stamps, by the way. And then you've got sending you love, stuff like that. So they're the ones we use all the time, and they have specifically done it so you get the really large ones, you get the medium ones, and then you get the little tiny teeny dinky ones. So no matter what space you've got on your card, whether that's a lot of space that needs filling or whether it's a very tiny little sentiment that you need, every single one of those is taken care of. It's such a corking set of stamps, and I've used it a lot and I love it very, very much. So it is a really, really good one. And if you want to have a look back on the previous show, you will see those in action there. Right, I'm just going to put these down here. Yes, Miss Taz?
We've had a few more names thrown into the hat.
Ooh, go on.
So Wendy obviously said Ruby.
Yeah.
Karen has said Sophia.
Oh, that's nice. Ruby Sophia.
Jimmy has said Lucinda, and Jacqueline has said Abigail.
So put all those together. Ruby, Sophia,
Lucinda and
Lucinda Abigail Bagshaw.
Wow,
That's
a name and a half.
Maybe I should take the bag shawl. Maybe just drop the bag and keep the shawl. That might be nice. So we'll do it that way. Right, I just want to very quickly talk to you about perfect papers. So you all know what perfect papers are if you've been here before, but if you're new, just to explain, they're not papers at all. It's cardstock and it's 300 GSM. You get 48 sheets, so there's 6 colours in here and there's 8 of each colour. So you get an enormous pack of papers. It's not just, you know, you don't just get one of each. It is a really big pack of papers. So for as long as you keep going making these cards, you should have enough cardstock there. On the website, you also get the backing papers, which are free, and they will match in with these and blend perfectly. So just to explain, you've got your colour tones here. So you've got your tone on tone. So we have your dark green with your light green, your light pink and your darker pink, and then the same here. When we're doing mattes and layers, I tend personally to do my matte in the darker colour and then my top layer in the lighter colour, but I know a lot of people like to play it the other way round, and it's entirely up to you which you do. But the important thing to remember about the perfect papers is everything is colour picked from the vignette, so it's all going to colour match. So what that means is I can take, for instance, I'll go light on light. I can take those two and they will go together perfectly. So you're never in a position where you couldn't put 2 perfect papers together, because they'll always work for each collection. So tone on tone. Colour theory is really, really important, because it's the one thing, and I've said it so many times, but it's the one thing when we're making a card and you just sort of think something's not quite hitting right. My composition is great. I love the way I've got it looking, but something's just... it's just not hitting right. It's usually colour. It's just to do with a clash with your colours. And so Carnation take that bit away from you. You don't have to worry about it. Of course, it's all going to work. But absolutely, go for your life and colour things in yourself. So just really beautiful. Let's have a look at some finished samples for Orchard Out in Taz, if that's okay. Just because there's so many lovely, lovely things. So we've got the DL. So this is that apple frame that we've got here. You can see it going up. And the great thing about this frame, obviously, is we can use it landscape or portrait because it's a DL. But it gives us this perfect base for us to create cards with. So we've got here What a Team, and then obviously we've got the shed sitting behind, the ladder. We're talking about simple composition here, and we're talking about a simple use of the dies. Because the frames are so spectacular, you don't need to overwork your dies. So, you know, we can go in with the most simple techniques and create the most stunning cards, because already we've got that colour. And I love the fact that the yellow on this frame, when we do put that shed in front of it, it looks like the sun is either going down or the sun's rising. And I really like that sort of sense of drama that comes into the card. I'll put these over here just so I know where I'm going. We made this one in the last show, so you can see here again, we're going very simple this time. All we've done theoretically here is used 3 dies, 1 stamp, as far as the collection as a whole is concerned. So we've got the lace band, and we've used it twice, and then you've got the lady in the tree. Done. Lovely, lovely card, but we're using that stamp to bring in, so your eye is drawn across and we're taking the whole card in, but the focal point is here. So really pretty card and really simple but lovely. Then we're going in with Ruby. Look at that. So depth and dimension, that's what we're working on when we're building up shadow. So this is what we played with in the first couple of shows. It's that idea of keeping these pockets. Now this is pretty much dried actually with that pin flare. So that's now not going to move. I've got those shadow pockets, and we'd simply do that by doming these out and just gluing it downwards on the edge so these sit upright. But isn't it impactful? You know, really, really pretty. That shadow is so effective. Everything about it so simple. Again, all we've used here is 2 dies. So we've just got the bird and the corner. That's it. That's all we've used. Simple as. Other than obviously your shape at the back. Simple, effective. And often the most simple cards can be the most effective. And I do believe that that is the case. We're moving on to look at Ruby again. Same thing, that circular die, but this time we've used the frame with it, so you can see how it changes it up. Becomes something completely different, doesn't it? And it's just simple composition. And these are those apple leaf sort of skeletons, the light work there. So they're lovely, really, really lovely. We're going to have a look at those today. And this one, I love this card so much. So we've got all of this composition here with the trees, we've got all this texture, all this dimension, and then we pulled it out to do more of the storytelling. So this is your basket here filled with your apples. You've got your floral corners. Even the DT team are so amazing, even down to the fact that we've got flowers down here as well. Every aspect is filled with detail. It doesn't have a name on this one, so I do apologise. I can't shout your name out, but I really, really love this. You've got the little chicks, you've got the ducks. All of your aspects are there. It's so lovely. We're going to... Oh, I love this. White on white. You know I like my white on white. Janine, you're such a star. All of these shaped out with a ball tool. Look at the texture we get. Now, if that had just been laid flat, I said this before, it would kind of disappear because you would be left where you just had kind of the white eating the white, if that makes sense. But because we've done it with the ball tool, you've then got all of the colour pop at this side. The way we then stop that from glaring at one side is by using the coloured edge. Super simple techniques. Composition is all about drawing the eye around the full card and then bringing it back to a spot. That's all composition is, and it's really simple to do. We're going to have a look at it in a second. Basics. So we did this one earlier. You've got your diagonal run. That's your composition. So we're always looking, where is your eye going? How are we manipulating the eye? And it's just about drawing them in certain areas. So we've got those beautiful corners to corner it out, and then you've got your focus in the centre, but we are drawn down, so we look down the card. So we're basically looking from the tree line down to those little ducks. Then we've got Taz's favourite, which I have to say is spectacular. It's Lavinia's, and it is such a beautiful card. So this is obviously the apple frame, and it's all this is the apple frame, the basket, the ladder, and a little sentiment. But Lavinia has been very clever and has done both her back and her front piece here on acetate. So you've got this beautiful, clean, fresh look on there. And if I put that against a piece of white, you can see how effective that is and how much it would change if I put it against this pink. So no matter what, the recipient who receives that, it depends where they put it, it's going to have a different effect in any home. And I think that's really special and really beautiful. Last but not least, something really simple, something really effective. So when we're talking about composition, we're saying, where is your eye drawn on? We were talking about that diagonal, weren't we? This is the same thing. It's that same composition piece where you have the diagonal running through, but this time we've worked on either side of the diagonal and left that middle runner free. And it's just the same thing. We're just drawing the eye to a certain focus on the card. So it works. And the way we stop it being glaring is by using the backing papers in this instance. So there's backing papers that have got a little bit of texture on them, or a little bit, you know, the words, it's got something on it. So we're not seeing a glaring white space. It's broken up, but it's flowing still. And I think that's a really, really good example. Just bear with me. Again, no name, a really good example of bringing composition down. So massive shout out, massive thank you to the DT team. I do think Carnation, I've said it so many times, I think Carnation have the best DT team in the industry. They're so clever, so passionate about what they do, and they love the dies that they get. So we get spectacular cards from them. Plus it's Carnation, so you know, it's Carnation. So what we're going to look at today is composition. So I'm probably just going to do essentially one card today. We'll see how it gets. If I've run through, then I'll do a second one. But I just want to look at how we piece things together and how we make things look different, basically, in the most easiest of terms. So I've just got an 8x8 here, just a basic card shape. So we're not going to worry about how we're piecing things together or anything like that. We're just going to look at composition. Now I'm taking a perfect paper, and you can see here I've got this beautiful, gorgeous, gorgeous sort of a, what colour you'd call it really. It's not yellow and it's not orange, it's somewhere between. It's a beautiful colour, and it works brilliantly with the orange frame. It works brilliantly with the lemon frame, and actually it works brilliant with the apple frame as well. But just by changing that and putting in the darker green here, suddenly it's a very different card. Already it's a very different card. Just something simple like your papers are going to always make all the difference. So if I place this here and then I put this on top, now we've got drama. So this is what I mean about when we're looking at composition. Often with mats and layers, we tend to go tone on tone. So if we were using, for instance, the yellow, we would use the lighter yellow on top. but there's nothing to stop us going actually in a different coordination completely. So think about bringing in different colours from those perfect papers. The whole point about the perfect papers is that they work together no matter which one you do. So you can use them in that way. I could bring in on top of that, if I so chose, and build another layer. So ignoring all of that aspect, so just thinking of that as white, look at where we go then. See, it's so pretty. Suddenly we're making something probably slightly more modern. It's a little bit rainbow, it's a little bit sort of funky if you like, but it's really pretty. All of your papers will work together. That's the point. So it's about playing and about deciding what sort of mood you want to build. And whichever colour you use is going to make a different mood. So before I ever do anything with my cards, I always sit and think, how much white space do I want on the top of my card? How modern do I want it to look? Or do I want to make it look quite sort of traditional, vintage? And we go sort of in that way, and that's how we work it out. So this is where we're going with this one. We're going to stick with this colour here. I love it. It's very warm. It's a very, very warm colour. Now for me personally, everybody is different, so I'm not saying I'm correct. That's too warm for me. I need to cool that down, because I have a funny thing with colour. If colour is too, what's the word I'm looking for, in my face, I find it really difficult to work against it. So if I'm putting dyes on top of it, I can't really see the dyes anymore. And that's just an issue I have personally with colour, not everybody else, but the dyes get lost for me. I'm going to stick this one down just so we can work on mats and layers. So just bear with me a second while I get this out in the right place. And we will place this just about there. Right, so now I've got that stick down, but I can move that around just so I know where I'm going. Now you see how that cools that down? So now I'm not quite so, I'm not drowning in colour. And that's why I sort of struggle, I think, with when I'm doing mats and layers, I have trouble putting my dark one on top of my light one. And we all see differently. And for anyone who is bored enough to go and find out, there's a brilliant book by a guy called John Berger, and it's called Ways of Seeing. And it's the fact that we all see things differently. Everybody does. We all see colour differently. Sometimes it's cultural, sometimes it's individual, everything. And you'll start to understand the way that you see colour and the way that you see composition and stuff. And that's what gives us those individual looks on our cards. You can tell certain people's cards. I can tell just randomly from the DT, I can tell a Janine card normally straight away. Janine's our head DT, and I can normally work out Janine's cards without ever looking to see who's made them, because she's got a very specific style, and it's because she sees things in a certain way. I'm going to cool this down, so I'm going to put in this is one of the free back-in papers here, and I'm going to cool this. Now, I've got a dark corner at the top here, so I'm going to turn it round, because for me, I would always want my darker aspect, so this piece here, to be at the bottom. I don't know why, but that's how I prefer it visually. I want the top space to be my space. Now, mine might be a bit skew with here because I can't lean over, so I do apologise, but you can get the gist of what we're doing. Building layers is always going to be important when we're making cards, because layers cause impact. So when we're breaking up the white space at the back, there are times and places where you are much better off going in with a white, just a white, and keeping it that simple. So you don't need sort of the mats and layers. However, if I was working just purely on white, so for instance, if I was to start here and add in, let's say, my orange frame, which is super beautiful, and then I was to put on, we'll go in with a tree. Now, I would say that that is still incredibly pretty, but there's so much white space around the edge of that, I've lost the tree. The tree's disappeared. It just goes, and it's because we're focusing on the white space. There's too much white space. So our eye, because there's so much white space around the edge of the card, our eye is immediately drawn to the green, because it's the biggest focus in this now, in that composition that we've got. The orange draws us further in, and it draws us to that green space, so we lose the tree. visually. Does that make sense, Taz? So if we change that up, lift this and put these papers back down, and then we place the frame, now we focus on the orange more than we focus on the green, because we're lining the colours up. So your eye goes elsewhere. That means when I put the tree in, I now see the tree. Just simple tricks of the eye. It's all to do with colour, and it's literally tricking the eye. And it's just because of where our eyes are drawn to. Literally, when you give too much white space in a massive space, you've got to focus on what you're going to look at in the centre of the card, and that's what we're looking at here. So that's just the difference, if that helps anybody. I'm going to go in with some more mats and layers here. So I'm working with a circular shape, but what I'm doing is cooling down those colours again. So we're now going in. I won't take all of these off. When you are working with foam tape, obviously you need to keep it stabilised in the centre. I only need it to stick with 2, but these 3 are going to stabilise the centre of my card. So I'll go in. This particular frame has got sort of 4 edges, and that's how it stands straight when you're doing it just as a circle. Just give you a heads up. So we're going roughly in central here. Again, I can't lean over, so if mine's slightly skew with, which I'm sure you'd all expect, you'll know why. So now we've broken up the square with a circular shape, which is always lovely to do. And then we're going to build some layers in the centre that are going to kind of match my outer layers. Just try and get that central. I do apologise. But if I lean any further forward, all you'll see is my big head in the way, and that's not good. And I'm going to go in with a lighter shade on top of that. Isn't this pretty? All those colours coming together. The Perfect Papers are just such a beautiful companion for all of these collections. Now I am going to stick this down just because it keeps waffing around. It's waffing around, Miss Taz. So let's just stick it in place. And then we're going to start working on how to build these cards with this particular collection. Placing this on top. Just to give you a heads up and a reminder while I'm doing this, if you're wanting the full collection, the collection number is 220301. The Perfect Papers are 220313, and you have the option of paying with ClearPay or with PayPal Pay in 3. So you don't have to buy it all at once. You can break those payments up if that makes it easier for you. But you do need to go to the shop, and the shop is based on the Carnation Crafts website, which is www.carnationcrafts.co.uk, and everything can be found in your collections there. Also, you'll see on your screen there it says Deal of the Day. So Carnation on their website do a Deal of the Day normally as well. So just to keep you posted there of where you need to go to get everything that you need. Right, let's have a look at some stuff. So we've got the basic composition here now. So I can go in with various different dies here. Now I've got all the dies from the set. So let's have a look at what we can be doing for composition. We were looking at that tree, weren't we? So we've got the tree here, and then I've got a mid tree, and then I've got a mini tree. So I've got my 3 trees here. Now, theoretically, that should give you a problem visually. And the problem is that perspective-wise, they're wrong. Because unless it was a gigantic tree and then a mini tree and then a tiny sapling, you would never see perspective in that way, because the thing that's nearest to you is always bigger than the thing that's farthest away. So just a simple change of just changing those and taking them up in stages will give you a visual perspective. If I just move that across. So you have a perspective. So now you could be walking down a grove, and as you're walking down that grove, you'd see those trees getting smaller. Really simple technique, but it's something to remember. As soon as you put this tree on top of this tree and on top of this tree, you've lost your perspective, because it just wouldn't work. So you can see how that becomes a jumble, and it's just by putting them on top. You can't visually break that up because it's not right. Your eye knows it's incorrect. So always put them behind. So really great technique to do some little sort of extras with. Now Hannah and I talk constantly about grounding devices, and there's good reason for that. If I put this tree here and I put this shed here, really pretty, right? But it is floating in midair. The tree's floating, the shed's floating, everything's floating, and that's not, you know, it's not a terrible thing. You could cover it with a sentiment, but my instinct immediately is to cover the bottom of that because it doesn't make sense to me at all, because why would it just float? So what we can do is just gently shunt that so the tree sits behind. So the tree's not floating in midair anymore. Now we've got perspective. And we could put a smaller tree down as well, but it's fair enough as it is. And then what we can do is take the grass and just pop it. Now when we put that down, because it's a straight line, we see it as a horizon line. And because we've got the horizon line, it's now sitting somewhere. There's a reason for it. A raison d'etre, if you like, Mr. House. So it's got a purpose. There is a sense behind it. Now, obviously, I wouldn't leave it straight across like that. I would cut that off, and I would just leave that as a grounding device there. And it's just those small things, isn't it? It makes a difference. What I would also do to emphasise that line then is use my grasses, and these come in the around the orchard die set that you get in this collection. I would put my grasses there and I would build. So I'd start to build that story that we always talk about. So we're putting this picture together and we're building it up, and we're just placing. So now you can see we've suddenly got a reason, and that horizon line makes sense because something is growing out of it. There's a tree behind. We can't tell where the tree ends because it's hidden behind the shed. So actually the tree makes perfect sense as well. Suddenly we've got that purpose and that reason. Now, if I was to then say, put Ruby here, Ruby becomes something out of a horror film because she's enormous. And so again, we're talking about perspective. You would never use Ruby in front of that shed. She's too big. So if we were to do this card and you desperately wanted the shed on there and you desperately wanted Ruby, I have to say I'd be inclined not to use the two together. But if you were desperate to, I would use her as a corner element, as an embellishment to the card, as opposed to a piece of the card. And the reason that would work is because we've got this central focus here. So that means we know it's not part of the story we're telling. The story's here. She's an embellishment. And I would then be inclined to use two of her, and I would have one at the opposing corner as well. Let's have a look. We'll just get another Ruby out of here. And you'll see what I mean. Because we've got mirrored vignettes, we can print both sides on one piece. I can have her facing the other way. Let's take that little present away. And I could then sit the embellishment on the other side, and it would make more sense of the card, because we're not looking for perspective now. We're not looking to say, oh well, that's the right size for my shed. It's now something completely different. So you can see where that comes in and how that balances everything out. So that's what I would do as my basics, and that's visually where I would go. I would be inclined to want something here, something small, some kind of detraction from that main piece just here. And the way I would do that, I would be inclined to use the frame sitting behind all of that, because those orange pieces are just going to draw the eye away from that main focus. And again, it's just a case of building up. So you would use that, you would put the shed back, and you wouldn't so much need this piece of grounding device because you've got those oranges breaking things up. So we know we're not trying to go into any kind of realism because we've got the orange frame at the bottom, but you can still put extra pieces in. Because the green is going to get slightly lost on that frame, that's when we begin shaping out, because it gives us that extra dimension and it'll pull it forward. So you can see how we start to build and tell those stories in different ways. Now I've got to tell you, for me personally, I would also be inclined not to use the tree on the orange grove if I was putting the shed in front of it, because you lose the tree. you can see it sort of disappears, doesn't it? It does break it up, but it kind of loses it. But it's a nice way of understanding compositionally what we would change and how we would do it. So my biggest piece of advice I can give anybody who's sitting at home with the Carnation collection, you're brand new to Carnation, you've got all your pieces home and you've got your dies, you've printed off your vignettes and you're sitting there going, now what? Well, my advice, what I do every time I get a collection, the first thing I ever do is once I've printed them all off, I cut my vignettes, and I usually cut somewhere between 4. Bear in mind I've got to do a lot of demos, so I will usually cut between 4 and 6 sheets full of vignettes for each piece. So you can see I end up with loads of stuff. Now obviously you wouldn't need to do that many, I need them for the demos. But what it does do is mean I can put them all on my desk like I've got them here, and this is how I make demos. So I put them all out in front of me and I just sit and I play and I work out what looks nice and what doesn't. What I'll say to you, the first thing that I can say, and the first thing I learned when I was making cards 2 years ago when I first started learning them, is never start with a very fixed idea in your head of what you want, because I guarantee it won't work and you will keep hammering away at it. And I've done it so many times where I'm sitting there thinking, well, I know I want to use this and this. If it doesn't work, put it aside and start something else. So just work on different things. If you're working on this frame, for instance, and you're building it and you feel like it's too busy, get rid of the frame. Just try it on a blank piece. Sometimes something as simple as having a blank space rather than a filled space will suddenly give you the creative sort of thing that you need to set yourself going with it. So with that in mind, we're just going to use this, hold on, and we're just going to take the backing off this foam tape, and I'm going to use the frame because I love it and I love the orange. And I'm just going to find my place in. It has got a set little way of doing this, but I'm not going to get too hung up on it just right now. But when you're at home, just switch it around and just make sure you've got it in the specific spot. Look at that, isn't that so pretty? I love it. I love the bleached colour in the centre. There's something really gorgeous about that. Now, these corners. Look at the pink against the orange. Now, I would say to you, in normal circumstances, don't ever put pink with orange. It looks bizarre. But actually, doesn't that look pretty? We're just breaking up the colour. And again, it's because we've got aspects from the orange picked out in the vignettes because everything works together. And it's the hues. So yes, we wouldn't necessarily normally put those colours together, but because the hues work, we can. And it's all about building it all in. Now, if I was just using this circle piece, actually, let's do it so you can see. Let me find my scissors. If you take this and you snip around this leaf, there, and then around this flower here, I've suddenly made that into a semicircle. It's like an arc instead of it being a corner. Obviously corners with circles, they don't really work, but I can now place it and just have it as an aspect to that on the edge, and it just breaks up some of that orange. I'm working with a lot of the yellow and a lot of orange here, so breaking that up a bit, not such a bad plan. Now, I'm going to be totally honest with you here, I don't like it there. I don't like it sitting where it's sitting. I'm going to then instead just place it here, and it's just going to break up some of that colour. So that's all I'm doing now, is just breaking up colour. I'm going to leave it flat because I'm going to make more out of some of the other stuff that I'm going to put on there. But really, really pretty. And you can see how these, so let's go Carnation. You've done your layers, you've added in a corner, and then I'm just going to add in some little ducks here. I've got a lovely card. They're walking off into the sunset. I've got a really lovely card. That's Carnation to a T. That's what Carnation stand for. That's what Carnation believe in. And that's what Carnation do every time. You don't need to over egg the pudding. You can do something that simple. You have got something really beautiful. And that's the point. Work with your layers. Work with those images. Those images are meant to work for you. And so just something that sweet. We've done it. That's a card. But let's change it up a little bit. So what I'm going to do is just shape this out slightly. I'm not much. I don't want it to be too domed. So I am going to use the ball tools on this, but I'm just going to use them on the very centre. Normally I would tell you to go on the outside edge. I don't want much of a dome, so I'm just going in to the centre, just where that shading is, that dark shading. So not much at all. I don't want, because normally, you know me, I love my big chunky cards. I love to drag all of that out. I just want a little bit of shaping. I want you to be aware of it, but not entranced by it. Little bit of pin flare. Now I'm hoping that I'll be able to move this all the way through this demo if I need to. So I'm just going to place just there. And you'll notice I very, very rarely put this either that way, that way, that way, or that way, because I like the eye drawn round. So I tend to use it on a bit of an angle. But again, that is absolutely to do with preference, and you need to do what feels right for you. It's just the way I like to play with them. Right, let's have a look. We'll bring in a tree. Let's bring in a tree, Miss Taz. We'll bring in a tree and we'll bring in Ruby. How does that sound? Your tree. Because the colour here is very, very green, we need to make something optimal of the tree. We've got to change things up. If I lay that flat, I'm going to lose it. I need to change it up. I've got to build shadow and I've got to build depth. I'm not going to do anything with the trunk. I want that to absolutely lay flat. But with this green, I now need to really shape. So what I'm going to do first of all is go around the edge with my big ball tool. You can press quite hard on these ones because the cut lines are there for you. If the cut lines were not there, we would absolutely be ruining this vignette right now. But because we've got the cut lines in there, you can just ball and shape that out. And then I'm going to take the centre now. So now I'm going in from here and I'm just going to work my way out and round, and then I'm sort of coming in on a spiral, and I'm going to repeat that process a couple of times. That dome, that cup that we're looking for. Keep the trunk flat. I've built all that up, and now plenty of pin flare. Let's build that height. You see how high I'm going with my pin flare there? There's a good reason for that. Can you see that? Can you see that blob of pin flare there? There's a good reason for it. I want it to sit proud, and I need that trunk to just slide behind there, because I don't really want the trunk as the focal point. Right, now the tree stands out. It stands out because it's been shaped, it's domed, there's a shadow below it, we've caused it to make a difference, and then we've got that height with that pin flare. Now, we'll take Ruby, and we're just going to shape her slightly. So smaller ball tool on the head. Bring that round, use the bigger ball tool. We're not going in the centre. We're just taking her around those edges. Leave the centre alone, and the centre will take care of itself. It's the edges that matter. The wing is separate. So the wing is not part of that body. So I'm shaping out the lower half of her body, but her wing is a different thing altogether. So we focus on it separately. Take all those top feathers, then the bottom feathers. Work with the artwork that's there for you, and then her tail feathers. And her tail's going to curl, and it's going to curl in the wrong direction for me. I don't want her to be quite that insane. So I'm going to take the tail, and I'm just going to pull it upright. And that's going to just sort of straighten it out, but it's still got that shape. So we've got that little arc that's going on there. And then I'm just going to pull her head forward so she sits more proud. I've got this beautiful shape in. Now, if I'd gone with the tummy, she would be very rotund. So if we were doing something like one of the mice, where it's that caricature, absolutely go in with the tummy. Totally go in with the tummy and give them a lovely big tummy. But when it's something that's more realistic, we want to just give her a shape in. So we're giving her a beveled edge. That's all we're doing with these. And she's going to be sitting here. So that's why I need my trunk covered, because otherwise, perspective-wise, she's too big against the tree. And I don't want her to be. So I'm using her for perspective, but those trees are too spectacular to ignore. So I'm going to place a bit of pin flare here to raise her height right up. And I'm going to sit her, so I'm mixing the little buds that are in her claws. I'm going to place her on top of here. So those buds now merge with the actual flowers, and it looks like she is actually still grabbing onto those flowers that come from. Her little tail comes out. And you can see how pretty she is. Now she's not got quite enough shadow for me. So this is where we start to then decoupage elements. So I'm going to take some foam tape, just to repeat from earlier. This is Glazer's foam. So it's for windows. So I've got a 3mm one here. And again, my ball tool, bring this round. I'm just going to use that on her face. Small one on her wing. Notice how I put the foam tape down first, which you may think is like absolutely backwards and coming forwards. And I understand why you'd think that. But if I don't, then when I do put the foam tape on, it's going to kind of flatten out all the work that I've just done. So we're just going to place this here and take this off. And I'm just going to build her decoupage layer, so to speak. It's not really decoupage because it's just one on top of the other. You know what I mean. Let me just try and get this right without putting my head straight in front of the camera. About there. And there she is. She's so beautiful, that bird, isn't she? Now we can change her and have her face in so she's slightly upwards as if she's coming in from flight. We can take it sort of down as if she's landed. You can do it whichever way feels comfortable for you. And because we've got pin flat, obviously we can move that around and make some difference. Right, let's go in with some of these little apple leaves, these little light pieces. Just as a note while I'm here, we can also add things in like, and I'm not going to on this one, but I want to show you it. We can add things in like the little gift. So she would be holding that gift as if she is taking a gift to the recipient, and that can go any which way you like. We could even have her, Miss Taz, as if she was a wild thing landing and this present's coming in. You see how we create motion by having it this way. It's as if she has landed and this is coming, you know, it's not quite come sort of straight down with her at the same time. This is how we create movement. So everything that we do has to have a reason behind it. Otherwise, you know, we make these crazy cards. So having this way would look like she was either flinging it or as if it was still waiting to land. So just be aware of where you're putting things. But it's very pretty. Now with these light works, I was saying earlier, Carnation Crafts have brought out different applicators for those of you who need to know, who like the applicators. I love them, but I know a lot of people put glue on their hand and run it down their hand. It's up to you the way you craft, but the new ones that Carnation have got now, which are on the website, have got this tiny fuzzy on them. And it's because the ones that they used to have where it was a ball and it was much bigger, it was too big to get into the tiny spaces that Carnation make because they're so small with all the filigree. So they use these smaller aspects. So we've now got the smaller applicators in case anybody needs them or wants to know why we did some different ones. So I'm just using a little bit of wet glue here, not too much, just so that I can stick this down. Now when it comes to things like this, I know I've got this green space here. And I know I'm probably not going to fill in the bottom half of this space. But I do want some just to take the eye here. There's an awful lot going on at this side of the card and not an awful lot going at this. I don't really want to change that too much, but I do just want to draw the eye slightly. So I'm going to bring in some of these, and I'll bring them in different colours. We're going to go in with a lighter one here. And this is just to draw the eye. So not too much, I don't want loads. I just want to break up that space, tidge by tidge. So again, we have that different colour. And you can see how that breaks up the orange, it breaks up the tree, it draws the eye across, and we've suddenly gained extra perspective. And I'm going to go in one more. It's a bit warm in here, Taz. Have you got warm cheeks? My face is feeling slightly flushed like a small child on Christmas Eve. I'm just going to place this here and just push it down with my ball tool so it sticks all the way down. And I'm pretty much done, except for isn't she beautiful, that bird? Do you not think that bird's stunning?
Yeah, it's very traditional Christmas.
Do you think Christmas? I just think it's like those Victorian, kind of Victoriana postcards, those kind of things. There's something really beautiful about it.
I can see it on a red letterbox. Bit of snow.
Oh, a bit of snow. Oh, we've done a letterbox one.
There we go. Christmas.
Christmas. Okay, I've got the sentiment here that says with love. We've got it on the diamond. And again, now I've got choices. Do I put it down here? I can have the sentiment at the bottom. I can have the sentiment at the top. And I can have it this side or this side. Now my card's too heavy over here, so I don't want it over here because there's too much going on, and if I put it there, I'm detracting from all of the work I just did by smacking a great big sentiment in it. If I put it down here, it's off balance because there's nothing here, so I'm suddenly drawing the eye away from what I've done and I'm bringing the eye down here. But our little ruby here, she's looking over here. So let's put this, because it's what she's looking at. All of these skeleton works here, her eyes, her beak, everything is pointing upwards. So if you think of that in terms of as if it was a light source, essentially, that's where we're going with it. And that lovely little arc on this little die here will just sit and follow that line round on my composition of my central piece. And we've got something incredibly pretty, incredibly beautiful, very simple. I know my demo may not have been the quickest, but when we're looking at composition, what we're looking at is colour and where your eye is drawn. So you can see how perfectly that comes together. It's a really beautiful card, but actually there's not that much used in it. And again, the simplest things often make the most impact. Use your free backing papers, use those coloured papers that you get with your perfect papers, and just draw your eye in. Things like Ruby, because she's so spectacular, it's always going to draw your eye. You're always going to focus on that piece because she's so amazing, isn't she? So the main thing to do is not detract from her. So if you put lots of things in front of her, it will kind of draw the eye in the wrong way, maybe. So it's super pretty and lovely to make. If you want to have a look at this main collection, the item number for it is 220301. That's on the Carnation Crafts website in their shop. You can do it just by typing in the collection name, by the way. Numbers mean nothing to me, like nothing, like literally. But if you want them, 220301 for the main collection, and for the perfect papers, it's 220313. You can pay by ClearPay or you can pay by PayPal, pay in 3. So you've got options there to break up those payments. Have a look on there if you want to know about shipping. All your details are there. You can get now, I know, a pack of papers with the main collection on a super special shipping deal with Carnation as well. So go and have a look at that. But you can only choose one pack of papers, but that could be perfect papers, it could be pro print, it could be super smooth, any of them. So go and have a look at the shipping details for that. Just as an extra reminder, there is the competition running, but you have to subscribe to YouTube for that. So you go onto just go onto YouTube and type in Carnation Crafts TV. Now what I will say is you can subscribe, but you do really need to sign in. You do need to have a YouTube account really to subscribe to something, but it's not a big deal putting in your details for a YouTube account. You just ask you for your name and your email and stuff, and you just put it in as if you were doing it for, say, Facebook. Press subscribe. When you're signed in, you can see at the top of your screen there, it says sign in the top corner. When you're signed in, it will also have a notification bell. So there's just a little bell. Just to be absolutely clear, because some people have asked, no, it does not cost you to subscribe to the channel. And the little notification bell, when you do hit that, it will give you a little prompt just to say that we've gone live. That will be for tutorials, for live shows, and for anything else that we do for Carnation. We don't do enough for it. We're not going to start nudging you at 3 in the morning. It's fine, because I will be asleep and I will not be doing any shows. So that will be absolutely fine. It's only going to be during the day, and also you will be notified anyway on Facebook that we're going live. So you'll have the reminder, but it gives you like a little prompt and it says we're live now. Go, 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 we're live. So you'll get all of those things in there. And once you've subscribed to that, if you go onto the Carnation Crafts page on Facebook and you find the post about the competition, just like it, comment, tag a friend in it, and share the post. And you could be in with a chance of winning £500 if you're in the UK, £500 for somebody else who is in the rest of the world. So there's 2 prizes in there. And we will announce that winner on the 25th of April when we go to air with our very special, and it is incredible, brand new launch. And it's insanely, I'm just working with it at the minute. It is just breathtaking, as you would expect. It's been really, really good to have your company. I hope you found that helpful. Thank you for joining me, and I will speak to you all very, very soon. Have a lovely evening. Take care. Bye.